was getting like fucking so much like
Hi guys,
hate mail and
we're
we're here.
live. How you guys doing? What's up? What's up, local Sierra? Nice to see you, bud. We are here with another episode. This is 29th episode, I think. We've made it this far, so we're gonna continue going. We got awesome guests here with Travis Reader, the Speed Reader, Walmart Greeter. Still one of the best names in FD, I must say.
I'm partial to Speed Reader, but you know, unfortunately, the other one's stuck for pretty long. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least I still remember the Seattle run where this fan literally brought you a Walmart vest to wear for intros. It was.
yep, still in my trailer, dude. Still have it.
It's amazing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a 4XL though, so it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
That's something that you have to wear like in the wintertime over a big coat and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey guys, we got Herbie here and Brandon. I haven't seen Brandon for a hot second. So what's going on with you, big guy?
Not much. Living.
That's
No.
exciting. Such a great answer.
Not much.
Herbie, is
Yeah.
your life that much more
Doing the
exciting?
thing.
No, not really. I mean, got back into iRacing again because I realized my subscription
saw
was
that.
going. It's just been going. I was like, well, I've just been complaining that I didn't have the subscription, but ultimately I did. I just got logged out. So,
I've just been working. Nothing exciting. Selling some parts. And that's about it.
That's super boring, you know. Sim stuff.
Hook it up, dude. I need some stuff.
Let's do it. I see it in the background. It's a little
Yeah.
something.
My shit's antiquated, dude. It's so old. I got like
that's
some like belt-driven Fanatec crap, dude.
I was gonna say it looks like a
I
CSL.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Not
CSL.
terrible. Could be worse.
Yeah.
It definitely could be worse. Don't get me wrong, but
What do you mean?
yeah. When you turn the feedback up like too high and you start getting like the car loads really hard and the wheel space starts like clicking, you know it's on its way out.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we got two big sim guys underneath me, but is it something that you still do, Travis, or is it more of a every once in a while?
Yeah, I jump on multiple times a week usually. Usually I'm just like driving with homies in a server they put up. It's usually me and my homie Dylan and Jason.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Drives a bunch, and we usually just get on there and jam, and whatever the new track is, we just go crash into each other for a couple hours and call it a night. But
heck yeah. And obviously you're up in the PNW area and Pacific Northwest for those who don't know that. And but I mean I'll be honest,
Just to clarify,
I didn't know what PNW was for a while until I kind of like got into drifting. They're like, what's PNW? And it's like, oh, it's Pacific Northwest. Well, it's a mouthful, so I get it. But yeah, so you kind of got into drifting up in that area though, if I'm correct, right?
I lived here my whole life.
Yeah, so tell me about the area, because I don't know personally too much about that area and the drift side of things.
Yeah, so I started the traditional way, just got a car.
Yep.
We have a bunch of industrial lots, and we just go out at night with our friends and just session the lots and whatever. And we have a bunch of mountain roads too. So
what year
we'd go
roughly, or what years?
2000. I got my S13 in 2011.
Okay.
So I'll say like 11, 12, 13 was kind of like the start of it when I kind of started doing it regularly. But at the time, there wasn't like the only tracks that were running drift events were there was a place called PGP, Pacific Raceways. It was a kart track up north. They don't do it anymore. And then Evergreen was doing events. And then there was, I think, just one other spot that was up towards like Mount Hood that would like rent out a parking lot. So nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But it has like exponentially like blown up since then.
Right.
In the heyday, we had probably, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 tracks within
Wow.
4 hours of me that would run like monthly or like bi-weekly events year round. So it got kind of it was good for a while. Park obviously shut down, so that was kind of our big one that
Oh yeah.
went under, and they're still working on trying to get that back, but it's been gone for a few years now. Right now we have Spirit Peaks and Evergreen and
Yeah.
Medford, and then you've been out there with us before, and
Yep.
then Spot out in the Gorge, Walla Walla, which is Villains.
Nice.
And then yeah, that's pretty much it. But
So what
tons
would
of
you
drivers down
say?
here though.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, what's like the climate like out there? Is it, because I feel like each area of drifting in America kind of has their own like style and you know, like I see like the New Jersey or like English town people are like all about driving, not it's more about what's the word? They don't not
Function
too.
over form.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Function over form. You get
Yep.
California, where I feel like there's a lot of money down there, and it's a lot of form over function some of the time. You get like the group over in the Midwest, that kart track, US Air, where a lot of those guys are about style, over a
Yeah.
lot of things. So like, kind of like, what is the P&W drifting style like?
We have, I'd say we probably have an even amount of everything.
Yeah.
If you go to any like local event, whether it be like Spirit or Evergreen or Medford, I think you get an average mix of guys that are like bring out pro-am level cars
Yeah.
versus guys that are like more low and slow, paint matched, whatever, with their homies, kind of like the team kind of guys.
Mhm.
And then you have guys that still just bring out like beaters that like operate well, but that strictly are just to practice with their friends, and they just get hammered on and they just leave it at that. I think we have like a pretty average split between the three, to be honest.
Gotcha.
But more, if anything edges out the other, I think it's more of like the team drivers where
Interesting. Yeah.
three or four of the homies, like they'll kit their cars out, everything's low, paint matched, whatever.
Heck yeah.
So I think that's probably, if any of them were to be more than the other one, it'd probably be that. But
Nice.
yeah, got a little everything.
Very cool. Well, let's actually get into your actual drifting career per se. Obviously, you started out in the S13, but something I've kind of noticed throughout all of your cars is they've all been naturally aspirated LSs, at least competitive wise.
Mhm.
Do you just not like power, or is that just like
Oh, my
What
shit
the
makes
heck?
plenty of power, dude.
yeah?
Yeah. No, I just like going back. We'll go back to like 2015. I did so. I wanted to do an engine swap in S13. This was before I even thought about competing,
Yeah.
and my family's always been into hot rods and
Mhm.
whatnot. Like, all the family has some sort of like 60s or 70s car.
Yep.
So the kind of like American influence is heavy with me for the most part. And
Yep.
I wanted to swap my S13. This was before LS swaps were super common.
Yep.
They were just kind of like getting some traction. So, and my grandpa retired and kind of wanted project and some stuff to do. So we decided to put an LS in my S13,
Right.
and it kind of just escalated from there because it just started with a iron 5.3 and then went to a 6 liter and then went to a 416 and then went up to a 427, and then just
Yep.
more compression, more
Mhm.
cam, more RPM, more
Yeah.
nitrous. Like it just
Oh yeah.
kind of grew from there. But it just kind of is what I knew, and it was always the reliable, simple option for me, not
Yep.
coming from a ton of money that could pay for extra spare parts and stuff. I had to kind of put together a package that would give me the best chances of making it all
Yeah.
year. And vying for like a little less horsepower in the form of reliability was always like uh
Yep.
my choice. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just stuck, and I don't know. You like under the hood of even the pro car, there's like not really much to it.
Mm-mm.
It's
Yeah.
just like it is just very basic and not a lot of shit going on everywhere. Basically in front of the crank pulley, there's like a factory core support and an oil cooler. There's like
Yep.
nothing else. There's no intercooler, like no big crazy serpentine system for a blower that can like take a
Mm-hmm.
shit, and no like big heavy turbo manifold or
Yep.
turbo hanging off the front, and like wastegate lines going everywhere, and like all this other shit. It's just very much just headers go down,
Yep.
air filter goes out the hood, and nitrous goes into the throttle body, and that's all I really needed. So
Wow.
I
It
mean,
was pretty clean, or it still is.
yeah.
yeah.
You put that thing up for sale, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to move it, but it's obviously a very niche market, and a lot
Yeah.
of people don't understand the value of a car like that.
Yeah.
Me and all my peers and all us other drivers, we feel that, 100 grand for a car like that is definitely a deal, because you go to a shop to build one of those things, it's 250 grand.
Mhm.
And so it's already, 40% of the price to have one built. And on top of that, you get all the setup data, which I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars gathering over the past, few years of pro driving, that like that thing you could, theoretically show up at Jersey and put my setup in it. And if you know how to wheel the car, like it won. So
Mhm.
like that
Yep.
data is worth a lot of money in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had some offers, but I'm not going to give the car away. And
Right.
it's refreshed, fresh paint, like everything's good to go, and just sits in the garage. It's got a couple hours of runtime, and someone wants to buy it, it's ready for them. So maybe someone will total their shit at Long Beach and need to buy it or something.
Yeah.
Not that I like wish that on anybody, but I
Right.
mean, crazy things have happened, and maybe someone doesn't get their car done and wants to rent it for a weekend. I'm open to that too. So
Right.
we'll
Makes
see.
sense.
But yeah,
But
it just sits
Yeah.
there, and I get to look at it, and
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
No,
fire it
that
up
makes
every
sense.
week.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting because you went the NA route, and it's usually when I associate NA horsepower, I always think it's expensive, because I feel like that's probably the most
Mhm.
expensive horsepower to make when you're
Mhm.
trying to make numbers.
Yeah.
So kind of talk to me about how you, on like a financial side, kind of make it at an affordable NA horsepower. Is it just dumping a crap load of nitrous in there and hoping it lives, or like kind of like what? So kind of explain that theory to me.
Yeah. So like I wasn't a believer at first, and there's always the horror stories about nitrous.
Mm-hmm.
But nitrous, in my opinion, is the answer for everything. And the fail safes that we have and the understanding we have around nitrous, it is the cheapest horsepower that you can do, especially
Yeah.
now that we have like ECUs like Link that
Mm-hmm.
can control these nitrous strategies and keep the engine safe. It's like, dude, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
At the most, I'd use a mother bottle worth of nitrous in a weekend, which some people might think is a lot to, pump 40, 50 pounds worth of nitrous through a car in a weekend. But that bottle's like $300 if you have
Yeah.
like an account, so
Yeah.
it's like I'd carry 2 or 3 mother bottles in the trailer, and I'd be filling mine and also topping up like Dylan's bottles and anyone else that needs it, that like and just one of those things. You have the motor built for it, and you're smart about it, and you understand what it does. Like, I mean, my shit made on motor. You're right. NA horsepower is expensive for sure. Just using all motor, because it's strictly just having everything work together, and it's a lot of R&D and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of airflow characteristics and a lot of math and a lot of other shit. But with the nitrous, you're just like injecting more oxygen. Like you're just, giving it more boom. And my motor, this motor that I have in the car now that Dustin Lee built, it's like the most powerful LS that I've had on a budget, and it does 680 wheel on a dynojet, and like mid fives for torque.
Yeah.
And then I put a 300 shot of nitrous through it, and it ends up making 950 foot-pounds of torque at like 3,700, enough to split a crank in half. And I just run the nitrous as far through the top as I need it,
Wow.
and it just eats it all day. So it's just like,
Wow.
it makes so much sense for me because I have the equipment, and once
Yeah.
you're invested in the bottles and the pump, like it's the cheapest way to have horsepower.
Interesting.
So
I mean, because
Wow.
like you
yeah,
still see it on the turbo cars. A lot of the time, you'll see a nitrous
yeah,
set up to help it get there. But
yeah.
it is interesting that because like I think outside of Christoph Blues, I don't know if there's another NA car in pro.
The Mustangs.
Yeah.
Yes, but how much do those engines cost?
Yeah, probably double what mine costs.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, but they make a little more. They make a little more power,
Yeah, yeah.
NA than mine. They make less torque than my motor though. Even
Really?
on, yeah,
Wow.
even on that bottle, those motors are really high strung, and they got to get the RPM turning to start making the power. From what I understand, they aren't as happy making low end torque.
Yeah.
They tend to break, but they weren't designed for drifting, those motors.
Yeah.
So they just turn them higher and make the torque and make the power band a little higher, so it works for them, obviously.
Gotcha.
But like,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
Steve in the chat's like Matt Kaufman, but he also had the same engine that Ford has, or like the
And
RTR guys have.
yeah, and there's a reason
Yeah.
he's got an LS in his car now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because the Ford motor it didn't really make the torque that was needed, and
Hmm.
that's like the important part. And in my opinion, like 90% of the FD field, it seems like nowadays, uses nitrous, whether they have
Yep.
it. The
Yeah.
only people that don't use nitrous and are forced induction are the dudes with roots blowers, because they make
Yeah.
the low end torque. All the guys with Vortex with the centrifugals, they're super lazy, so they have to have the nitrous,
Yep.
like Matt and Odie's setup.
Hmm.
And then all the turbo guys, to have a big enough turbo to make the power you want, you're going to get some lag, so they got to use the nitrous to wake it up anyways. So in my
True.
opinion, my strategy was just build a motor that only has to use one power adder,
Yeah.
and the nitrous can fill the gap everywhere. And I don't have to have a motor that makes crazy torque either. We just set up the cam to make horsepower at the top. If the torque lacks NA, the nitrous fills that in. The nitrous makes the
Yeah.
torque no matter what. So
Wow.
I just spray it, I pick up the torque curve at the bottom, and then it carries the horsepower out to the top. So it just makes more sense to me.
And the
Did
crazy
you ever
thing.
have? Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, did you ever have any solenoid issues? Like, you hear people that always have that, but since you were like, you just focused on nitrous itself.
RTR has always had solenoid issues, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how you use the solenoids. So mine was on off, all in. Some people try to pulse them, and like really like try to manipulate the solenoid, and it's hard on them for sure. There was a year that in the protocol we were using a certain solenoid, and I just had to order a bunch of parts, and I had the guys rebuild the solenoids every night.
Damn.
Just because like I
Wow.
did have one stick open, and that's the worst case scenario, because sticking
Yeah.
open causes nitrous backfires. But I've also had them stick closed more often than not, and it's just from you have high bottle pressures, and it just beats the shit out of the seat, and then eventually the piston and the seat stick together, and then it won't want to open anymore. But it's also like a small price to pay, and it just becomes part of the maintenance schedule, and it takes 5 minutes to replace the parts of that solenoid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if you do one a weekend, a solenoid a weekend,
Yeah.
if you're not pulsing it like crazy and trying to like cycle the solenoid like over and over again,
Yeah.
I feel like they last just fine. And the solenoid that's in the car right now went a whole season, never rebuilt it.
Wow. And the
Dang.
thing
It's
is
still in
like
there.
you never had a problem keeping up with anyone in FD, which is the cool thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have the superior car.
Yeah. So
Good car.
so something tells me that you might like the BMW over your S chassis. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tenfold, dude. Could never go back. I'm
So-
ruined.
So what speaks to you about the BMW? Why is it so
It's do you want me to give you the laundry list, bro? Like, cheap and accessible. They made millions of them. McPherson strut, front rack, so no wheel wobble at lock, no bent tie rods, way stronger steering, better geometry. Long wheelbase, the car doesn't snap. It's very easy to transition slowly. You have a trailing arm, very simple rear suspension, tons of mechanical grip, more than you would ever need ever in your entire life. Um, they are super lightweight. They, I don't know, they're timeless classics. They look, I don't know. But all the above, like obviously they have their caveats, like the subframes like to tear out of them, so you have to strategically deal with that.
Yep.
Um, they're not the strongest chassis. If you get into a bunch of hits, the rocker panels get caved really easily, and like they
Yep.
have their flaws for sure, but since they're disposable and readily available for cheap, like
Yep.
if you have to reshell one every few years, it really doesn't matter. But I don't know, easy to drive, dude. The steering feel and like the feedback in these cars. I spent a lot of time in my S13 trying to make it drive good and trying to make grip and be predictable and be able to handle it on a 295. And
Yeah.
anything over like 450, 500 wheel in my S13, it was like once you put a bunch of grip in it, it was almost uncontrollable to keep it from snapping or to be able to drive it how I wanted to drive it. I always had to like hinder myself to try to be on top of the car, and with the BMW, like never a thought in my mind.
Wow. That's cool.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
And
Yeah. There's some.
you're not the first person to say that BMW is the best chassis, so
Yeah.
The interesting part is like, why haven't the E92s become popular? Like, because you really don't see a lot of them out there.
Yeah,
it's not like they're
BMW
expensive.
They ruined the suspension, dude. It's not the same.
Yeah.
They have like
You
the
lose-
5-link stuff in the rear, right?
Yeah. You lose everything that like is what makes E36s and 46s great. They ruined all that with that chassis, in my opinion. Like the trailing arm cars are just so balanced, so easy to differentiate forward by from side by, and when you make tuning changes to the car, it's so easy to feel. And like I don't know, I can even the pro car with all its power and all its grip, I can go lock to lock, wide open throttle, not lift, just help the steering wheel through a little bit every once in a while, and it like I never have to worry about it doing something unpredictable to me, just because it has 10 inches more wheelbase than an S chassis.
Yeah.
So it's like we've all been in a truck in the snow, like a dually or some long bed truck, and you can just like school bus wheel that thing around and you're never gonna spin out, and it's the same. It's the same thing with these cars.
Right.
Yeah.
So
100%.
but
No,
yeah, I could go all day, dude. I'd be steady converting people to the dark side all day long.
Yeah.
Just like how Chelsea converted me years ago, dude. I just still push it.
Although he's pushing that EcoBoost car real hard. He's like trying to make that old suspension work in there, and it seems to be doing stuff. So I don't know.
In the Fox body?
Yeah.
I mean, the Fox body is the most similar rear suspension to the E36.
It's true.
Like a four link live axle. It's the same as just it's got trailing arms. It's got a ton of forward drive. Like it's actually very, very it's very similar.
Yeah.
Steering geometry in the front is not the greatest, but that can be overcame. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it is funny though if people find these old cars and they're like, you know what, this is so much better than what we have today. It's just funny, It's like you would think it'd be the opposite.
I know a lot of them are. There's not very many new cars that I get stoked about to build for a drift car. Like
really, yeah.
There's not a lot of them because I know how my current car drives, and I know how.
Well, what's your thoughts on like a Corvette? Corvette seems like an interesting one.
Depends on what you're doing with it.
Okay.
Like, I don't like Corvettes for grassroots cars.
Really?
Because I don't feel. Yes, they make good mechanical grip and they're balanced and they drive good, but the amount of people that I've seen at the track with a torque tube blown to pieces, and every time you got to service it, you got to basically body off the car, and having all these electrical issues where like you got to put it in reverse when you park it, otherwise the like the lights stay on or something. That's like a C6
What?
problem. It's like a known problem. You got to like park the car in reverse, otherwise the running lights stay on or something weird. Battery, like they have
Yeah.
like a plethora of issues. If you're going to build a race car out of it and you're going to do a mid trans and make it and gut it, and obviously it gets like its own specified wiring and all that, then I think they're great and they're a competitive car. But
Interesting.
from like a fun everyday weekend car, the
Mhm.
only benefit to that thing is it has an LS from the factory, I guess. Everything else I don't really see as a benefit because
Interesting.
I see more people working on them than not.
That's an interesting opinion because I've always thought they're like the easy car to go drive,
Yeah.
but
No, they're great if you can if yours doesn't break. They're great.
it's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So
We actually got our first question already in the chat from Brandy. He says, "Can we ask Travis how he got the Walmart grader name, and what is his affiliation with Walmart?"
zero affiliation with Walmart. That is that's your boy Jared Deanda, and it is all his fault.
Yeah.
So
How did you feel that first time when you found out that's what he called you?
I just
Like,
rolled with
well,
it. It was funny. I was just like, whatever. And it doesn't bother me. I don't care.
yeah.
It's actually kind of funny when people think that I could have gone drifting on like a Walmart salary like that. Honestly,
Yeah.
with the amount of money I've spent on drifting, I probably could have made more to be honest. But like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It was just good fun. Like I never took it. I never took it negatively, but yeah,
Right.
zero affiliation. But
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, FD does miss you, but you're doing something different now. And I'm kind of like, obviously, you've told me kind of what you're doing now in your career for at least for right now, and but you kind of want to explain to everyone else what you're doing now because it's an interesting strategy that people I don't think really think is like feasible, to run a program like you're doing, or just so they haven't
yeah.
thought about it.
Yeah, dude, I almost don't want to give away the secret because everything's working out so well.
Yeah.
No, it's just
Well,
like
what I would talk about is the value of not running FD and where there's
yeah. So
value in other things, like
yeah,
other events and stuff.
I want to preface this by saying that I do love FD,
Right.
and if I had the budget to keep competing, I definitely would if it made sense. But
Yeah.
it's stopped making sense due to like the budget restrictions that I got and or partners pulling out or the inconsistency in securing long-term deals. It's very, very difficult, or it was difficult for me to try to secure anything multi-year. So every year that came around, it was like, oh, hopefully we find the money to go racing again. And usually that money doesn't come in until a couple weeks before Long Beach. So you're winging it and like
Yeah.
hoping that the checks come through or whatever. Um, but I don't know, dude. I always wanted to drive these fun festival style events like the grid life stuff and like hyperfest and all those type of events, and I was never able to do it because I was so invested in FD, and
Yeah.
I didn't have the ability to get a car across the country to do events other than FD. Like my rig is my rig, you
Yep.
get one car in it and one truck and one trailer, and I'm not going to take the FD car to go run fun events because that's irresponsible. Since I am contractually obligated to make however many rounds there are, and
Yeah.
so I never got the opportunity. And I think the last couple or the 2023 turnaround, I feel like it was kind of a blessing in disguise losing my title sponsor because I got to experience like all of those events last year on even though a very minimal budget. It was the amount of fun I had and the amount of value I was still able to create for my partners through that um, was super cool, and I just felt like I missed out on a lot of things
Yeah.
by having to like tunnel vision on FD. So I mean, from now on, unless I get some sort of funding or deal that goes through that makes sense to go back to FD, I'm going to continue running this program of doing grid lifes and mountain drifting events and
Yeah.
like traveling around and just driving my fun car more and just having a good time with the boys, because I feel like I kind of got out of touch with that. And FD never got any cheaper. If you
Nope.
wanted to
Yeah.
be more competitive, you had to spend more. And every dollar I got that came in, if the next year I got more budget, that budget was still spent trying to keep up with the Joneses to be competitive and
Yeah.
try to expand the team and be more professional and bring on more guys, and guys cost money and parts cost money, and if you want to be competitive you can't be scared of wrecking the car, and if I write off the car I got to pay for it, and like
Yep.
it just turns into that like rat race. Although I did love it and I do miss it. I love FD, and I definitely miss competing, but I still get the same feeling pulling up in my rig to a grid life and getting to go party with the boys in a 400 horsepower car.
Yeah.
So still
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
feeds my soul. So
Well, I mean that, and obviously you still kept with the LS system in your fun car too. So you want to kind of just give me a quick breakdown of the fun car for people that don't know about the Banana.
yeah. So the Banana is my E36 that I've had for I think 6 or 7 years now. I had bought that car when I was still competing in my S13. I bought it as a practice car, and that car is like really what converted me. It is a Dakar One M3, like a true uh,
Wow.
car, but it has been. I mean, like I pull the title out right now. It's got like 10 brands on it. It's been rebuilt like 4 times and totaled and whatever. So I don't feel bad. But I don't know. It started as just an M52 car, and just did shocks, angle kit, very basic stuff. I drove it for put I think 20,000 drift miles on it with the M52. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and it was just the absolute beater for years. And then that's what made me transition to the E46 for the pro car.
Yeah.
Um, but now that thing's going to be pulling the main, it's going to be like the workhorse for the last couple years. I kind of gave it a refresh and painted it, put a cage kit in it, did Dustin, my engine builder for the race car, put me together a pretty sweet little aluminum 5.3 that was very budget. Made a little under 500 horsepower on the engine dyno, so it's probably 380, 400 wheel, and adapter plate to a ZF and stock drivetrain out the back, and just very very basic. It's got all the link gear. It's got the link plug and play LS kit, link PDMs, link keypad, all the fancy like nice electronics, all the radium, all the radium fuel system stuff, SLR, Fortunes, Koenigs, all the stuff that I kind of used on the race car, transitioned to this, and it's rad because it's 600 pounds lighter than the FD car is.
Wow.
Makes way less power, but if I did the math the other day, if I can get the car to 450 wheel and it can be 2,500 pounds with me in it, it's only half a pound per horsepower away from what the FD car is off the bottle.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's like almost there, and the power to weight is 6. So that thing will do wheelies with the 235 right now. Just it's just super good.
That's cool.
But yeah, it came yellow, so I got to keep it yellow.
Yeah.
You can't, even though I've been red or dead forever, you can't apple a banana.
Yeah. No,
You
it's
can't do
true.
it vice versa. You gotta keep it how it is. You can't fake the funk. But
100%. Well, I mean, and you talk about the red also. I mean, that had a lot to do, I believe, with your grandpa, if I'm not mistaken, too. And kind of one of the cool stories with you that, I mean, some people know, but it's like the influence of like airplanes with a lot of you and your program and everything. And you can just kind of want to hit that side of your program, because I think that's really cool stuff.
Yeah. I've been lucky enough to be able to do a lot of this stuff with my grandparents, and a lot of people don't have that benefit. So I feel very blessed. Gramps always into aviation. Growing up, they had a house on a little private airstrip in Battleground, Washington, and Gramps had a handful of planes. Cessnas, Bonanzas, biplanes, all the stuff he's built. He's probably had, I don't know, 10, 15 planes, something like that. And the one that he it was always known for is he built a P-51 Mustang 80% scale. Him and my grandma and his brother and a couple of their friends, they designed and built one from scratch. And that was my like entire childhood, was going to Gramps'. And that when I was a little kid, the Mustang was mine. That was my plane. And
Wow.
yeah, they spent, my grandparents and friends and family spent 10 years building that thing. Gramps and Grandma flew it around all the shows, won all the awards in it. That was their pride and joy. And as soon as he got kind of too old to fly anymore, decided not to fly anymore, we transitioned to race cars. And the naturally, when you build airplanes for so long, putting race cars together, you kind of carry over some of the same habits. And Gramps helped with a ton of the sheet metal.
Yeah.
And when we would build firewalls and brackets and fan shrouds and all this stuff, it instead of being a prefabbed thing that you buy or some kit, it's straight to the metal brake and the shear and bend it up and it gets rivets, and it kind of gets that old aircraft look. And I carried that along. And that's why a lot of my early liveries on the car were checkers and stripes and all that kind of like World War II era like fighter themed stuff, kind of like Hoffman has had the same thing because his dad was into the same stuff.
Right.
But yeah, that kind of carried along. The S13 had Restless 2 above it above the windows, and Restless was the name of the Mustang. So
wow.
had 600 on the trunk with the vertical stripes. That was the tail number on the Mustang. So I tried to always carry it through, and then it just got nicknamed Old Red.
Oh yeah.
And so the S13 was Old Red forever. My E46 has been New Red forever. And it just kind of it's just cool to kind of keep that alive. And just was always a project that I could work on with my grandparents and really like cherish that side of it. So
is there anything like that they did in the aeromotive space that you found really interesting and was able to incorporate into some of the build at all?
Yeah, I mean the engineering behind planes is much different than how you would build a race car in a lot of cases. And just like I always have a way in my brain of how I want to fabricate something or how I want to build something. And it's been a lot of times that I would sit there and try to figure out how to do something, and Gramps would draw it up so far different than what I would think. And just because his brain's working on building it like an airplane, not a race car, and my brain's looking at building it out of my experience of what I've seen drift cars like.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We went the old school route of sheet metal and rivets on a lot of things. And the oil filter adapter that was on my car for a while came from the Mustang. A lot of the AN lines and fittings in early days were on the Mustang. The corner windows of the E46 have these little tiny Zeus fasteners that are like aircraft grade. They're like really little. And those came out of the mystery box of airplane stuff. And different weird little clevises and different hardware for like linkages that you would have in a plane. Everything's mostly mechanical, and we would use that for a ton of stuff. So I don't know. It was just cool. Opened my eyes to how things could be done differently that I wasn't used to before.
100%. So, no, it's an interesting, like, because I talked to your grandpa too, and he lost me very quickly talking about the planes. With how technical he was getting on some of this stuff, but it's such a different, like you said, different way of doing engineering. And because you're only accounting for so much when you're on the ground, but you have to account for a whole lot more when you're up in the air.
And you got the gravity thing coming at you too, if anything goes
pressure, temperature, everything. It's like it's a really cool.
I mean, I don't even think Gramps' first flight was planned in the Mustang, to be honest. I'm pretty sure they built so much lift into it, it just took off when they were trying to taxi. Like, And he was just like, "Oh, test flight." Like, imagine building something. I'm building a race car, and I'm like, I have to go like 120 in this, so I'm already kind of sketched about that.
Right.
Yeah.
But imagine building something you're like, all right, I have to go 400 in this, and not have it fall out of the sky and kill me. And when I move this lever to the left, hopefully the plane rotates the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's an absolute different level, and that's like my grandpa is the type of crazy with that shit that I can never equal. You know what I mean? Like, I would never try to build an airplane. No way in hell.
Yeah, yeah.
But they did it, dude, and it like if he hadn't have done that and had that experience and built that plane, then like a lot of my stuff wouldn't be here.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. No,
Yeah.
like I said, it was a really cool experience talking to him. So like, I wish I could explain what he said, but I can't. I'll be honest, but it sounded cool.
Yeah.
But you are kind of trying to fly with some of your other vehicles, I think. Maybe that might be just rolling over, but you don't just do drifting. I also heard
Yeah.
that you might have caused someone to roll over a vehicle in New Jersey. That may or may have not have happened. I've heard on other
What are you
stories.
talking about?
I don't know. I just was hearing stories and people
In
were
Jersey,
talking.
what did we roll there was a Jeep on its roof.
Yeah,
We
and
may or
I
may not
heard
had
Chris
a
Knapp told me you may have had something to do with that.
I just like if they're in the they make flex ramps for a reason for all
Yeah.
these wheelers,
Yeah.
and all my friends are into off-road, and if someone's got their Jeep there and there's something to climb with it and you're saying you can do it, I'm not going to be there to tell you not to. I want to see it. And at that point there just happened to be an old monster truck, and we you know decided to try to climb a monster truck with a not so monster truck, and sometimes you land wheels up. I don't know, but
No, but like
the op-
obviously that's your other passion is what you do though. So kind of talk to me about that whole side because that's a completely different industry.
absolutely, yeah. And I'm only in. I don't want to say I'm full on in the off road space, but I've
Yeah.
been dabbling a lot more lately, just because all of my friends that I used to drift with have all kind of like transitioned into wheelers. In the Pacific Northwest, that's very big. We have tons of trails, and snow wheeling in the winter is huge.
Yeah.
And we have rocks to go, like if you want to crawl. We have the dunes if you want sand. We've got mud. We've got a little bit of everything. So the off-road industry is massive around here.
Yeah.
I have my buddy Logan. You did a little
Mhm.
thing on his second gen Toyota that he put together, and that thing's pretty sick on link, and it's making like 220 wheel through a 43-inch bogger, which is pretty wild. That's like pretty crazy power, but um, like I don't know. I kind of got scumbagged into building my Jeep. I didn't really like want. I didn't necessarily didn't like. I've had wheelers in the past. I've had 4Runner. I've had an XJ.
Yeah.
The JK kind of came about randomly, and ended up being kind of a budget build that turned out way sweeter than I expected it to be. But the off-road stuff's like, it's super fun. It's definitely a change of pace. I have a Can-Am as well. Go play in the dunes and jump it and
Yeah.
do whatever. Um, and it's just a nice it's a nice dive into a different I don't know, different driving discipline, I guess.
Yeah.
It's still reckless. It's still rowdy. It's still as far as you want to take it. Um, but I don't know. It's good fun, and I just try
What's
to fill my
the
weekends
goal
with one thing or another.
of the off-roading stuff that you do personally? What is the goal of the objective, or is it just that fun?
For me personally, like from like a business standpoint, or
No,
from
no,
just
no.
like
From like
what we're doing on a
from like
weekend.
because you do rock crawlers, right? Or
Yeah.
I don't know the genres of the sports of
Yeah.
off-road, so
There-
I need some
It's
education
just like
here.
drifting. It's just like drifting, dude. There's subgenres within like drifting. You have your like final bout dudes, and you have your competition dudes, and you
Yeah.
have your dudes that just hammer on their shitter cars with their friends.
Yeah.
You have guys that only drive kart tracks. You have guys that only want to drive big tracks. It's all kind of different side of it, but like around here, mainly, so Southern California, Utah, Colorado, those places, mainly it's like rocks and crawling. Up here we do have, well, and then also in California you have the desert, so you have like trophy trucks and go fast stuff.
Okay.
So there's the go fast stuff in the desert and the sand, where you want horsepower and travel, and you want to be able to rip through the whoops and whatever and hit jumps. Then there's the dedicated crawlers that you just don't need to make a lot of power, but you just need low gears, big tires. You want ground clearance. A lot of those cars have or trucks have rear steer. Some of the transfer case, like dual cases, you get down to 100-to-1 ratio. Like a lot of these trucks are like on the rev limiter. On the rev limiter in first, it's only doing 2 miles an hour, So you have that, and then with us, because we have all the seasons, that changes it. So my Jeep is mainly set up. A lot of the guys build trucks to go snow wheeling. So during the winter, we go and we try to find 5-6 feet of powder, because it's not very hard to find, and just go as far as we can in the snow. And that's kind of another subgenre. You want the biggest tire possible, so you can air it down really low and try to float over the snow. There's just a little bit of everything. My goal is my Jeep can kind of do it all. I've taken it to the dunes and driven around for fun. We've gone through the rocks with it. It's not as enjoyable in the rocks, but it'll do it. It's pretty good in the snow. It kind of just does a little all around, and that's what most of my friends build their trucks to, just to be able to do everything. But I mean, all these trucks are 4-linked front and rear, hydro steering, most of the time multiple transfer cases, but also they're on coilovers, and they can go pretty quickly through. They have enough power to rip through the trails at speed. So
that's cool. It's definitely a different genre of motorsport, though, because you guys really, I don't know if style is really a thing for that genre. Is it, or is it just whoever can do the most is the coolest kind of thing?
It is very much scumbag your friends into trying to do stuff they shouldn't do type of motorsport.
Hell yeah.
It's very grassroots. The only real competition for this stuff is, they have Ultra 4 stuff. There's some rock crawling competitions and some rock bouncer racing stuff, but none of my friends, and I'd say probably 8 out of 10 of the dudes that build wheelers, it's just to go in the woods with their homies and try to get through a trail that no one can get through, or hit a hill climb, or see how far you can get through the snow, and just go rip the rev limiter around in the ditch with your boys and try not to put it on its side. It's very much just grassroots fun, and you'll come up to an obstacle and it's I bet you could make it up that, and I don't know, man. I'm oh no, you got it, and you just peer pressure someone into doing something stupid in the name of fun, and that's basically what it's all about.
So you're saying it would be good for Herbie to get into?
Well, I was gonna say, I always think about the Napoleon Dynamite scene, where it's but you can't toss that pigskin over the mountains type of style. That's pretty much. That's it. It's all right, watch me do it.
Oh yeah, I've had my Jeep on its side in the ditches multiple times, where I'll pull up and Logan's you got that, and I'm no way in hell, dude. And he's bro, you got that, and I'm you're right, I got it. And then I get halfway through the trail, and both left side tires are off the ground, and I'm dragging the soft top through the hard top through the snow, trying not to blow the windows out of it. And I'm watching the oil pressure gauge, because it's so far over that I don't know if the motor's going to live. And, and then you drive out the other side, and you might have a broken mirror and a broken taillight, but you get good laughs out of it, and everyone's on to the next one. So
100%.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah. I had a kick out of it when you were talking to me about, when I did the video on your buddy's Toyota. That was everything's completely different. It's a completely different build.
Oh yeah,
it's cool though.
Completely different. And I've been learning a ton about it too, because obviously I come from drifting, so I'm a suspension nerd when it comes to drift cars, and Logan's a little more in tune with the truck stuff and the geometry on like four link setups, and so I've been nerding out on that but a little bit, and like how to set up off-road coilovers versus like drift car coilovers versus road race coilovers, because they have like multi-rate springs, and some guys like run like bypasses, double and triple bypasses and all this kind of stuff. So
100%.
That's been fun.
Because we had the conversation a little bit with Odie when he was on, because he initially, for cars, initially he did dirt bike suspension, but then he got into the cars and did rally suspension, and that's completely different than like the drifting and all that kind of stuff. And he was even saying like the massive changes just in the motorsport fields of what you're looking for is pretty drastic.
Oh yeah. My favorite thing lately has been getting all the wheeler guys set up with good electronics to run these motors, because that's where I feel like it falls at the wayside. These guys will put $20,000 into axles, but they'll run their motor off Windows 95 and expect it to live by like slapping a turbo on something. And so I've been getting a lot of the homies set up with with these link setups, and it's been really cool because I've been able to like improve the drivability and the reliability of these trucks like tenfold by incorporating like stuff we use in the drift world so much into these trucks. It takes a little bit of convincing because a lot of them are like stuck in their ways and they're scared of something new. But like I've seen guys out on the trails that have blown up 4 or 5 RZ motors in their truck in the past year, which is like a big like Toyota 4-cylinder a lot of these guys use. And Logan's been on the same like 200,000 mile unknown unopened junkyard motor, making that thing probably makes 400 at the crank, and it's been had a good tune on it. It's been ripping off the rev limiter for years now without skipping a beat, and that kind of is like the proof's in the pudding there. So that's been the fun part for me, is like I go up in the woods, but also I make sure to wear my link gear, and I bring my laptop, and if anyone needs help like plugging in trying to diagnose a problem, I like helping and like doing that. So shameless plug, like if anyone needs some help with that, I'm here, so shoot me a DM. But
I mean, it is kind of something new you're doing though, is you're kind of helping with parts and stuff, and it's like, so like kind of what do you want to offer people, I guess? Is it just Travis Reeder's Motorsports? Is that kind of the business? Like, just quick, give me a little plug on what you're doing in terms of like.
So I've always done some like parts sales on the side. It's been a good way to like make some extra cash, and also like learn the ins and outs of the products that I'm using on all the race cars. So I do have my web store, and I am a dealer, but on top of that, like I do try to offer like a good amount of support from a standpoint of like, if you do want to buy an ECU from me, I will help you spec what you need, and it helps fill in the gaps where you might not be sure of what ECU or what sensors or what accessories you want. And I can help put together a package, and then also facilitate, like, part of it is like I can make sure that when you fire it up for the first time that all the sensors are set up, and we can read all the vitals and make sure there's no leaks, and make sure you have oil pressure, and make sure you're dyno ready, to help save you some money in the long run. So I enjoy doing that. I enjoy the consultation side of it. So I've been doing a lot of that lately, and it's been pretty good. So I have a lot of people hit me up all the time, and they're like, what do I buy? How do I build my drift car? How do I build my wheeler? How do I build this? And I'm like, well, in my experience, this is what I feel like you should do. And also I can supply these parts to you and help you set them up how I would set them up, and kind of get it knocked out on multiple bases, where not only do they get good parts that I use and I'm comfortable with, but also they get the knowledge from me of how to set it up right, so they don't, burn the time and money in the long run trying to figure it out. So
100%. Well, like, what's the best way for people to contact you?
I mean, just either DM me or shoot me an email through the email that's on the site. It's just travisreedermotorsports.com, and
cool.
I try to stay pretty up to date on my DMs, but if anyone has any questions, like, they can always hit me up. And so
hell yeah. Always gotta do that side hustle, or the main hustle, whatever it is.
I mean, dude, drifting doesn't work unless you have obviously some sort of cash flow, and the shit's expensive, so you got to figure it out somehow. Not we don't all like drifting is a budget motorsport, and so is like wheeling for most of these guys. So it's it's more common for people to do it as a hobby than it is professionally. And if I can help people save some money and get them some good shit, then I'm all for it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, do you want to lean more into like building race cars and that sort of thing, like for like clientele or anything like that, or is it just the part stuff? Just out of curiosity.
So I don't do any because I have done a bit of fabrication in the past. Like I build all my cars, but I've kind of gone away from doing fabrication for customers just because it's a hard sell. The labor's expensive, and it's literally just time and material. And a lot of people don't like to pay time and material, especially if they want like real quality shit. It's something to where like if someone wants you to build them a stainless exhaust, I can't do it for cheaper than what they could just buy like something off the internet for, like my time and material. It's going to be better quality for sure, but you're going to spend 4 times as much.
Yeah.
So I can't really compete there on the labor side, but as far as parts go, I'm open for anything. If someone came up to me and was like, "Hey man, I'm putting together this jet boat and I want to like put this motor in it. Can you help me source some sort of package to run this thing?" I'd be like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." Like I'm trying to learn and I can point you in the right direction for most of the stuff. But drifting and wheeling both probably equally. I've been trying to push a little more into the off-road stuff just because I feel like it's a little bit of an untapped market. But really I'll do it all. And if someone wants to hit me up and wants me to kind of guide them and consult into just doing a build, if they want to, pay me just for my knowledge on how to build a car right the first time, in my opinion, like I'm all for that too. And I've done that in the past and it's been pretty sick and worked out well. So, I don't know. I just like helping people build cars and jump in it for the first time and be like, damn, this thing's really, really sick. That feeds my soul. Like when I go to the track and someone is having trouble with the setup and I have them like change the sway bars around or change the spring rate or just something as simple as like changing alignment settings and tire pressure, and they come back and they're like, that really helped, like I'm really stoked on the car now, then that's what makes me happy and makes me enjoy, I guess, work you would call it.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Gotcha.
But yeah
no, it's and it's true, like I know you already offered to kind of help me with my car when I want to start progressing it and actually like actually drive good, but that requires money, and I've had some new expenses pop up, so that might be set on the back burner for now. But let's get back to FD for a minute, because it's always fun, because that's what a lot of people watch, are fans of FD, and I'm always curious, like, who are your favorite and least favorite drivers to drive against, for any reason? Just curious.
Okay. It's I always like driving with the homies. Obviously, Dylan, Chelsea.
So instead of least favorite, sorry, I'll rephrase that. I'll just say hardest. Who's the guy that's like always has your number, I guess?
What do you mean? Like the hardest dude to drive with, or
hardest guy to beat?
Oh, hardest guy to beat. I mean, it's a weird conundrum because like all the guys that you want to chase and want to drive with are all the ones that are the hardest to beat.
Yeah.
Because they're so consistent and they're going to be online and on throttle that you can chase them well, and it brings out the best in your driving. But because they're so consistent and good, that it's kind of hard to close the gap and hard to edge them out because they are so good and consistent. And when you lay down a good, like when they put down a really good lead run, so you have a good chase, and then your lead run maybe isn't as good as theirs, and if their chase faults, obviously it's your fault. So but yeah, I mean, I enjoy driving with the guys that are super consistent and super smooth, like the usual suspects, the Osbos and Odies and like Turk, James, Chelsea, all those like higher level guys are Dylan. I drive with Dylan. He's always Mr. Consistent in the lead. So it's like super sick to always chase him around. And
Heck yeah.
The hardest guys to drive are the ones that aren't comfortable in the car and
Yeah.
haven't
Yep.
figured out necessarily the setup yet, and they're still trying to adjust to the track or adjust their line or adjust
Yeah.
their driving habits. So those are always going to be the guys that are more difficult to like to predict.
Yeah.
So you're always kind of like on edge trying to tippy toe around whether or not they're going to make a mistake, and
Yeah.
that's where the battles get messy, in
Oh
my
yeah.
opinion. Oh.
What were some of your toughest times during like your program, and that like you had to keep pushing forward through that? Like, was it just like well, obviously budget is everybody's thing, but
Yeah.
anything like, that was just like behind the scenes, like just like shit breaking or just like not getting like parts on time or something or whatever?
Yeah, the only major issues that I ever had, my car's been like pretty reliable for the most part. Um, we have had up until my current engine builder I have now, I had some engine builder issues, which is pretty common in this space. And that caused a lot of headache. I'm definitely not removed from having to do an engine swap like days
Yeah.
in advance of an event and roll in kind of blind with no testing.
Yeah.
That's been a very common thing. But other than that, it's literally just been the hardest part is just having to justify where the little budget I have goes and having to balance that. Like
Yeah.
I want to give my guys the best experience at the track. I want to make sure that like my guys are paid for and get good dinners and
Yeah.
like are
Good man.
taken care of, and there's always beer in the cooler and all that and whatever. And like, but sometimes some of that stuff has to fault, and sometimes we don't get to stay in a nice hotel. We don't get to stay in, you know, sometimes we're getting kind of a clapped out Airbnb because I have to save that $1,000, otherwise I can't pay for their plane tickets. You know what I mean? That was always the hardest part of my program because I never had the budget to really run it how I would like to. And it sucks that I had to kind of keep my um like it sucks that my guys didn't get like I couldn't provide my guys what I felt they deserved in certain scenarios just due to my budget. And they
Yeah.
never like held it against me. But I just, I wish I could have afforded to, pay my guys more and, you know, get them like a nice, like super nice dinner every night instead of just like rolling through Chick-fil-A every night.
Yeah.
And, like I wish I could have given them that experience, but it just wasn't in the cards. So it was like, oh, do I want to like are they eating steak tonight at a good
Mm.
restaurant, or are we going to be able to buy a spare gear set
Yeah.
because we're going to need it because I can't afford to have this gearbox fail,
Yeah.
or like something like that. And the guys totally understand every time. They'd
Yeah.
tell me 10 times out of 10 buy the part, which is why, my team was amazing, but
Yeah, I'd eat
just
McDonald's every damn night. I don't give a damn.
yeah, it just
Well, that's
it's
also
always hard,
partially because
dude.
by the time we get done, that's the only thing that's open.
It's true,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
that
what I
too.
mean. Like, I'm just happy to be there. And it's like a signal that the day is over. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're
That's true.
finally eating.
Reason number 10,000 why St. Louis sucks.
But
For real.
what was like working with Napoleon Motorsports during your electric car days? I'm sure
Oh
you've answered
yeah.
this a million
Mm,
times.
yeah, I've been through it,
Um,
but
what was that like? I mean, you tried
I
something
always
new. I
forget
mean,
about that thing too.
I
yeah.
I mean, it's like probably a touchy subject because it just, that was like, what year was that? 20,
Also, I just
19.
feel like that's the antithesis
damn.
of you, which is the funny part.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I honestly, if that program didn't happen, my career wouldn't have progressed.
Yeah.
Really?
Like that was so I had just won the Pro 2 championship in
Yep.
2018.
Mm-hmm.
And my plan was fully to just run Pro 2 again because I couldn't afford to drive Pro.
Yeah.
It was never even a thought in my mind. I was just gonna drive Pro 2 again, just keep doing it for fun almost.
Yeah.
And then I got a call from the team, and they needed a driver for the car, and I was on the list, and basically I won the job. And It was the best, like, it was the best eye opener and learning experience in so many different ways because it was going from my own rig with my grandparents, like basically towing my race car behind the RV and staying at the track with my grandparents and having my friends crash on the couch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very like doing an entire Pro 2 season for, like 20 grand, right? It was very much that straight into this guy shows up in a $500,000 semi. I fly in, I drive the car, the team's covered, everything's covered. It's team meetings, it's like it's goals and schedules and PR and like everyone wants an interview about it and it's the new crazy thing and like just it was so much different. Like a spotter provided, a crew chief provided, you know, everything changed. And um parts of it were very difficult, don't get me wrong. It was a learning curve for not only myself being in that position. I'm sure I wasn't the easiest to work with because I was um it was very out of my norm
Yeah.
to ultimately have a boss and a program because I had done everything my way for so long. But it was also a change of pace for Napoleon because they had come from running Trans Am like TA2 teams and road racing into this new drifting thing with the help of Ron Bergenholtz from Nitto. Um, and it was a change of pace for them because they are working in a motorsport that's completely different and a different type of people and a different type of competition to where they were on a steep learning curve as well. So we definitely butted heads a bit in certain aspects, but also had some really good success in the car for what it was and what we were trying to do. And I still talk to those guys to this day, like
Yeah.
Joe and Lynn and Bert and Miguel and Ron and all the guys from that team. I might not talk to them on a regular basis, but
Right.
we still touch base multiple times throughout the year. And since that car has not been competing, Joe's had me drive it at a couple demos. So
Oh
I've
wow.
driven it past, like I drove it in 21
Mm-hmm.
um, at a demo at Sonoma and like done some other stuff. So
Nice.
I mean, Joe and Lynn like send my grandparents like and myself. We get like Christmas cards and stuff from them still. Like
Nice.
they're
Yeah.
they're really great people, and we had a lot of fun and like good memories. And it was overall a great experience. Unfortunately, the budget to continue developing that project just wasn't there, so
Yeah.
that's why it dissolved.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, like,
No, it looked
so
very
what,
difficult.
yeah, I'm curious.
yeah,
Like, first of all, what is it like to drive an electric drift car?
yeah. This one is set up. This one had Tesla drivetrain, so it
Okay.
was very much just one gear point and shoot. If you just hold it wide open to the floor from a standstill, it's going to spin the tires 130 miles an hour. Like
Yeah.
it just has the torque to do it. So it's very much like you're tiptoeing through the track.
Oh yeah,
It's the
because you're gonna kill the
definition.
tira, is what if you just stay in it.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Yeah,
eventually,
and also
too
on
much
on
wheel
tight
speed.
turns. Yeah, on
Yeah, and
tight
you'll
turns you
just
have such
spring out.
yep, you try to not to spin out because you barely touch the throttle and it goes to 120 miles an hour and your vehicle speed is 15. It's very hard to
Right.
control. Um, but it it was good. It actually drove really well. If you got past the fact that the throttle control was a little difficult, and it was like driving automatic, no clutch pedal.
Yeah.
So um, I could not like if I pulled a handbrake and got on the gas, it would break the axles immediately because it had so much torque that
Wow.
like I could blow like it would try to blow through the brakes and it would just break shit if I did that. So I had to be very careful on the handbrake and throttle. I couldn't like
Yeah,
get
you
too
can't,
too
like how
crazy
you
with it.
normally would with like clutch and throttle, like ready, clutch
Yeah,
kicking, ready to go. Yeah, no.
yeah. But I mean, it was eerie like hearing the tires work, like
Yeah.
the different pitches of the tire screech based on wheel speed or based on load was something that I'd never experienced before, so that was kind of cool. That and like when I was tandeming with someone, I could hear everything they were doing, they could hear nothing I was doing. So I felt like I
Yeah.
was at an advantage
Yeah.
because I could hear someone like in a turbo car, I could hear them like revving up the throttle and getting ready to dump the clutch, and I could hear people like making adjustments on the gas or like getting on the brakes or lifting, and I could hear that like clear as day. I didn't have to rely as much on the visual aspect, so that was a cool thing.
Wow.
But the steering was weird because steering had to be full electric, obviously. We ended up electric over hydraulic, and it fixed a lot of the problems. We built a linkage, or Ron built a linkage for the gas pedal. The Tesla pedal only has like an inch of travel, so Ron put together this like linkage system that made it. I think it was like 6-to-1.
Yeah.
So it gave me a ton of pedal throw, so that I could help control.
Modulate.
Oh, we lost the headphones. But can you hear me? I can't hear you anymore.
He might need to.
Yeah.
Maybe just change it on your.
Change your audio to phone or whatever. You should be a settings button or something. Isn't that right, Herbie? I don't actually know.
Where like it says mute, there should be like a little drop down arrow, and then I think that should be able to. I could be lying. Yeah, no, it should tell you options, microphone.
Can't hear you, bud.
No.
Negative.
You could leave and rejoin.
Yeah, you could leave and rejoin too. That might fix it. But yeah, no, I remember when he started driving that, and it was one of the most different things ever. No, we can't. Leave and rejoin. But it was so weird watching that thing.
Seeing it. He was at Wall with it, right?
Well, yeah. And I saw it at Atlanta, which was weird.
Yeah, I saw it in Atlanta too. That thing was weird.
Yeah.
Hello. Now, all right.
Now we got you.
Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, you're good.
Nothing?
No, we
got you.
We hear you.
We got you.
Oh, he don't hear us now.
There's no way.
He doesn't hear us?
I'm guessing. Yeah, we hear him.
Yeah, it's just his speakers.
Is there really no
we can hear you. Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Where's the speaker thing?
I can't hear you on my end now.
It's in the same thing.
All right. So yeah, go to the top. It should.
Well, he can't hear us.
Can't hear us.
Before we could tell him. Now we can't tell him. This is gonna be a technical wizard.
I know, right?
Text them. You got telephones and shit. You can do that. Oh.
He said he's gonna try one more time. Let's see.
I want to ask him if they do that electric thing again. Like if they'd want to.
I don't think it would be competitive, and that's the next question I want to talk to him about, because there's a bunch of elements that would stop it from being competitive.
They gotta figure out a way to make an electric car have like a gearing.
They have with I don't know if it's real or not.
Can you hear us?
Am I back?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
All right, perfect. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Sweet. So we were just kind of debating here. Like, obviously, Brandon was thinking if they would ever bring something like that back, but I don't think you can make it competitive.
You can.
Really?
Yeah.
We had the recipe. It was just not. It was not in the budget.
Okay. So like, how could you make electric car competitive? Because my first question is, how do you handle the weight? Is the weight where you'd want it?
So the Camaro was actually pretty good in the sense that it was like 51% front.
Okay.
So it was very well balanced, and it was like 2,960 or so pounds.
Oh, that's lighter than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had to put some ballast in it to make weight for the 315 for the big middle.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the way to fix it is, in my opinion, the perfect recipe would be it only had 430 volts. We need 750 plus. So you need the extra voltage. We need the amp hour on the batteries so they don't fall on their face. Like, so they can. The batteries we had discharged very quickly, to the point where they would start, like, halfway through my second lap, the car would start to lose power.
Oh wow!
Wow.
And it wasn't because the batteries were dying. It was just because, like, they were drained as far as, like, the amount of energy they could discharge.
Yeah.
So higher amp hour, more voltage equals more power. And I think, in my opinion, it would have to be traditional drivetrain. So traditional gearbox, quick change, however you want to do it, and then have stageable motors. So they make electric motors you can stack and program. So if you get 3 of those electric motors stacked together, and you can almost create, you can program it to create a power band that mimics like a standard engine. Because the problem with the torque of an electric motor is it makes everything at the bottom and then makes nothing at the top. If you ever driven a Tesla, you make it a hitting it, and it's like mind melting for the like 0 to 60, and then from 60 to 130, it's like like you're taking a nap. You know what I mean? So if you could have multiple motors that would deliver power at different stages of your power band, that would fix it, and you would still make your instant torque. And you would still have gears to control your wheel speed, because that's the other thing is like the Tesla motor spins to like 18,000 RPM or something. So the rear gear was very short, but you end up having still so much wheel speed off the pedal that it's kind of hard to control.
Okay.
So if I could have a gearbox to still limit it, or have some sort of programming to limit the motor speed to create gear ratio that way. Like if say I have like an electronic shifter, and it just does like sequential style up and down shifts, but say first gear only lets the motor spin to 6,000 RPM, second gear lets it spin to 12,000, third gear lets it spin to 18,000. You could create a transmission almost with that. There's a lot of other ways to do it. There was a package we were trying to figure out how to get and work with these companies, but ended up being like, they wanted like $1 million for the motors and the electronics and all the components to bolt it. Like they wanted an astronomical amount of money because it was one off, and
you were really like one of the pioneers too. I feel like you were at such an early stage for the electric vehicle, like as a whole. Like even Tesla was still, I feel like in 2019, still becoming like a popular item.
Yeah, they didn't have Ludicrous yet. It was just the P100D, or like not the Lucid cars or whatever it's called. Super high-end models.
Yeah. It was cool. It definitely, like, do I believe electric is the future? Absolutely not. Do I feel like it has a place because of its like performance aspects and how it's different and cool and like undeniably makes like really good power? Absolutely. I think it can be utilized in those ways, but I don't think internal combustion is ever going to die in racing. I don't think it should. Joe and all those dudes at Napoleon feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, the interesting question then is, how long until we get a hybrid drift car?
I think I don't think Kevin's ready to try to develop that rule book, dude.
Oh yeah. I always forget about that. Yeah.
There's so many crazy things you can do with that. Like, I don't know. Imagine an electric motor like picking up the slack in between shifts, so you never have a problem. Like, you'd essentially have someone launch off the start line in FD and never have to shift, and they would be like essentially could be the fastest car because in between shifts the electric motor could pick up the difference. They just keep pulling and run away with it.
Wow.
Or like being able to manipulate where that extra power is used and why it's used. And I don't know, it could be definitely an unfair advantage.
Interesting.
I don't know. We thought about trying to do something that's like torque vectoring, where you have like individual motors per wheel in the rear, and essentially you could manipulate how the car drove on a bank, because you could just fire up the upper wheel's wheel speed to the moon, and it would help the car stay loose and high on the bank. Or like on decel, the motors could either free rev or they could lock and act like a handbrake, and you wouldn't essentially almost not need a handbrake, because you would just lift and it would lock the rear wheels for you, and then you just get back on it. They could make your diff, like you could essentially have any form of diff, one way, 1.5 way, 2 way, all in the programming. You could make it slip, you could make it be locked, you can make it slip on decel. Like,
wow.
you unlock a massive can of worms with that tech, and like it almost wouldn't make the competition right, because you just be doing things that are so like out of the norm and so hard to control from like a tech standpoint. Like Kevin would have to be learning as fast as us to try to keep up with what we were trying to do. And if think about it, if we did something that worked and was so crazy competitive, the amount of petitions on that would be so insane that like we wouldn't be able to continue. Like if it worked, we wouldn't be able to continue. But that's the thing, is like if it didn't, like with the Camaro, if the car didn't work, it was our fault, but we were doing something new, so it didn't matter. Like because it was cool and different, it turned heads, and it was something to talk about. If the car did work, it was also our fault. So then we had a target on our back because we were the new guy with the crazy thing that worked. So there was no way of losing in that program when you look at it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So
it was a very interesting scenario though, and I'm still a little bummed that the only time we've seen a 6th-gen Camaro in Formula Drift has been electric, but and maybe someday. I doubt it, but
the car still is very big and heavy and very hard to see out of because the windows are.
They're like at this angle, at like a 1-degree slope for some reason. They're huge, but they're at like such a terrible angle.
Yeah, they're really bad in certain ways, and like, but good in others. But I couldn't fit my helmet through the window. I had to open the door to get my helmet into the car because the window was so small.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, pretty comical, honestly.
But since like with working with Napoleon, and then like you got to progress your own career and become your own name, and everybody adores you. When RTR started looking for a new team member, everybody was saying Travis Reeder. It's got to be Travis Reeder. How did that make you feel, for one? And can you give us any reason as to why people would think that you would be going that way? Is that because just you were boys with Chelsea, or what was it?
I mean, obviously, like RTR is the largest and most successful team in drifting in the world, right?
Yeah.
And they've proved that time and time again. So it's always would be an awesome opportunity to drive for them. And I've done demos for them in the past, and they've teamed me up with some good gigs. And Vaughn's always had my back with a lot of stuff. And all the guys over there, their whole team, like I get along with their team crazy well, obviously. And Chelsea definitely helped with shooing me into the family there. It would have been cool, but like in the end, there's still dollars and cents. And like it comes down to a lot of it is budget, and a lot of it is the long run of how the program could pan out. It definitely made me feel good that everyone expected it to be me. I was definitely like, I'm not going to lie and say I wasn't on the roster and we didn't have talks about it, which was, just cool in itself to have Vaughn give you a call and be like, hey man, let's have a meeting in the rig, meet me here, and let's talk about future plans. That was just cool in its own right. But yeah, it just Ben ended up fitting the mold for them that they wanted for a long run for a driver. It made more sense, and there's no hard feelings there. And his dad has a Ford dealer, from what I understand. So he's been a Ford guy for a long time, and he lives close in the area. He's an East Coast boy, and it just logistically and from a marketing standpoint, I guess like Ben made more sense for the team, and that was the end of it. So but do I wish I could have wheeled those cars and tried to put them on the box? Absolutely, because I know those cars are monsters and they're definitely not easy to drive at all. And I was looking forward to the challenge if it presented itself. I was I would have driven the absolute piss out of those things, but yeah, it just didn't work out, and
cool.
Live to see another day.
Yeah, I was always just curious if you ever actually had the talks with them, but that's cool that you did chat with him about it. So
Yeah, it was
Nice.
definitely it was on the table, and it was a conversation, and yeah, just it's just like it's the same thing like Napoleon. It's interviewing for a job. These big teams, they need a seat filled, and they got to look at every aspect of where money's coming from, where money's going, and how everything can be marketed, and then like it's a business, and
Yeah.
that's decisions get made based on making sure the business can operate, and yeah, that's how the world turns.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Now,
100%.
Yeah.
now you're having fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of what's kind of the schedule for next year for you, as of right now? What's
Dude,
it looking like? No idea.
I unintentionally locked myself into more events than I think I can handle, but I'm
Oh,
looking
boy.
forward to it. I have we've got it'll be 4 grid lives most likely, so we'll do the Atlanta grid life,
Hell yeah.
Midwest, Road America, and then possibly Lime Rock, and then Laguna. So actually possibly 5. And then I'm gonna try to hit a couple Drift Appalachias. I'm gonna try to hit the first one. If I can't make the first one in West Virginia, then I'll do the one in Slade in Kentucky for sure. I'll be at FD Jersey for Pro Bro Down. I'll be hanging out for the weekend, doing some activation with Radium.
Yep.
So I'll be there, and then try to hit some stuff in between. If the rig, depending on where the rig ends up, I might try to hit an LS Fest. I might try to pizza out here. Sick. Sorry, delivery. Yeah, I might try to hit that. I might try to hit like Hyperfest.
Yeah.
No Coast. I want to do No Coast again with Dan. That was cool last year. And then hopefully finish up with Laguna and Winter Jam. So a absolutely stacked list of events, and all I have to do is try to make my poor little E36 survive through it.
Yeah, you're putting the banana to work. It sounds like.
Oh yeah,
That banana's gonna be bruised.
yeah. I just ordered a quick change for it. So
Oh,
Getting serious.
it's gonna be the first sub 400 horsepower car with a quick change, I think.
I feel like though, like once you have that lifestyle of being able to just be like, all right, well we're here, I need to go this fast, and not have to just have a whole separate pumpkin with the right gears in it and all that shit. It's just instead you could just have this nice thing that's probably shouldn't break for a very long time. And you got a little tiny box of just gears, and you're good to go. You know.
Yeah, and the E36s are cheaters. Once again, another reason why E36 is superior is I ordered some like laser cut brackets to bolt the quick change in. I'll fab the subframe myself. It's like really easy. Don't even have to cut the floor out. And E36 M3 is 930 CVs. It's the same bolt pattern as a quick change, so I can use factory axles and just bolt it in the car.
Wow.
So,
That's cool.
E36 best car.
Not only is it the easiest to install, but it's also the cheapest way to put a quick change in the car. So it's like I can't say no, but
Right.
I also need the gear ratios because I only make like 380 wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But-
And I mean that car it reminds me a little bit of Dylan's E36 as well, but I feel like his is just a little turned up a little bit more than yours. But but that it's pretty funny how you guys have kind of grown up.
Always had the same shit.
Always got the same shit, but now he's gone the turbo route, the turbo inline 6 route, and you stayed with the LS.
Yeah. And the next car I build is going to have a turbocharger on it. I'm not going to disclose, but the next car, turbo motor. So I'm going to even venture out a little bit.
Putting your feelers out.
Yeah. It's just like, because we started in S13s, both had coupes. The next drift car he bought after his S13 was his E36, which is currently his demo car.
Yep.
Then after my S13, the first one I bought was my E36. Then Dylan built an E46 as a pro car. Then I did.
Yep.
And then now our S13s are both gone. sold that thing off not too long ago, and to a homie up north, and he's going to put it back together. And then now we have our E46 Pro cars and our E36 demo cars, and it's just kind of slowly like we've just been doing this. Pretty funny, but yeah,
you gotta get yourself a NASCAR. Just keep the regular V8 in there.
You can get straight rail late models around here for real cheap. Like I could get something and put it together. And
dude, how hard would it be to make like a drift series based off of like a stock car style like that, where it's a tubular subframe and like you just build a chassis and send it?
So it's hard to regulate, and it'd be weird to see who, or I guess it'd be hard to see who would be like interested or not. But I think like the straight rail late model route, like the late models that are made more for like road courses, would make decent drift cars. Honestly, it wouldn't be too hard, but there's so many variations of it and so many different chassis and bodies, and it'd be a little funky, and it kind of takes the personality out of drifting. Yeah. It's more cool, in my opinion, to like show up to a track and see someone drifting a late model or a modified, or Adam bought a Legends car. He's been drifting a Legends car. Like, that's hilarious. Those things are sick. I just like the blending of it. I'm about to put street tires on my Can-Am and go to Spirit Peaks and try to go drift my Can-Am for the day. I think I'm going to rip that up in the next couple weeks, hopefully.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know. It's cool.
Interesting. That's actually a conversation I've had with multiple people. Is it's like, because some subframes and some of these chassis are getting real hard to find, and so and at what point can we start making our own subframes, or like like not necessarily going tubular, but like people are gonna have to start making their own stuff for some of these chassis if they want to keep running them.
Yeah.
Well, I think didn't they try to implement like that you had to have a car over a certain year, but it just fell through or something, or were they talking about trying to make a rule like that at one point?
Yeah, I heard talks about them trying to put a age limit on the cars. In FD, obviously that didn't happen because they'd lose like half their field. On where they put the age limit. But I mean, there really isn't any. The oldest car now is a S13, technically. So it'd be like, 89 would be the oldest car, which still is crazy to think that like a car that was designed in the 80s is being used in a professional motorsport. To this day, which is that a positive to the sport, or is that a negative to the sport?
Or is that a negative to new cars?
Yeah. Well, that's in that circumstance, and it falls back onto the sport, because it would be harder to get a car manufacturer to be on board.
Yeah. Do you think FD's losing do you think they're losing viability as a series because there's cars from the 90s being used to compete? Do you think sponsors of the series aren't taking them seriously because people are rolling up in bent ass S chassis and E36s and all these old cars versus hypothetically speaking, I'm not making a point or anything.
Right.
Do you think that very well some people might think that that's a problem because it's not there's not enough manufacturers in the series to want to either supply new cars, or there's not a regulation where you need a certain new car. Obviously, Chris has the new Z, there's the new Mustangs, there's the Supra, the Corolla with Turk, but then
the GRs,
the 86s. But other than that, everything's 90s or early 2000s. So
I wonder if people are going to start taking E36s and putting F series panels onto them, because I know people in Europe do that. They take F22.
Well,
molds.
The Sorensen cars are E46s, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is a little sacrilegious, because I think an E36 is the most timeless car to look at.
Yeah.
Some people don't like them, but I'm like, why would you try to make it look like the E92? Why would we do that? Or I'm like, the bumpers are $89 on eBay. Like we need to save this at all costs. Like this is how it has to be.
It's true. They do look fantastic. I love how my like nice little M3 body panels just they look good, man. They look great.
Yeah, that, and if you wreck that thing, dude, there's like 100 of them being parted out within 30 miles of you on Marketplace.
Yep.
By a fender for like a 12-pack of beer.
Hell yeah.
It's true. It's crazy. Eventually, he'll come back. Maybe someday.
Eventually.
That
was quick.
But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I always knew you're a big BMW guy. Now it's just kind of funny because, obviously Brandon and Herbie were like, obviously I know him, but I don't know him like that well. And they're like, does he like the S13? I'm like, no, he's a BMW guy. Trust me.
I have my soft spots for older Nissans. I do love S chassis still.
Yeah.
If you want to build one for that specific type of driving under 400 wheel, if you want like a snappy, like cool, like retro car, like
an 8.6, like an old 8.6 or something. Like those are cool chassis. Like they're not going to be competitive, but it's cool to drive. It's cool to see something from the 80s just ripping around.
Exactly. And that's how I feel. That's how I feel about S chassis. Obviously, a lot of people make the argument that like there's S15s and FD that do good, or S14s with S15 panels. The geometry and wheelbase on those is a little different than S13s, so they're a little more manageable.
Yeah.
But still, I still feel that like there's a lot of cars that are more competitive than that when like set up correctly, I guess. But
I know. I'm just waiting for someone to bring a Fox body into FD.
I mean, the rulebook got changed for it. Kevin allowed like tubular K member and some other stuff. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, dude. Come on, Chelsea, come kit up some events with that thing. I want to see that car compete, man, so bad.
That's good. I'm shocked it lost to the Pontiac Aztec for being the worst looking car.
I like the coupe Fox bodies over the hatch.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, like I think I've seen last year in Prospect we got our first new Edge that I've seen in a minute. Driving, so that was kind of cool. That was, of course, LS swapped, ironically. But like, so I am curious to see if we get some more diversity in chassis. I mean, obviously Lee brought his it was an E92, I think, out, and we're seeing some different stuff, which is always cool. And like Rad Dan's always been repping like the old Supra and stuff like that. Obviously, that's gonna have its drawbacks just with how that chassis is. But like that's his thing. So it's like it is a tough sport though, because you are seeing a lot of E46s. Like that is by far the number one most popular car in the series now. And it's interesting because it's like, is that a good thing or is that indifferent, or is like, would you rather be seeing like newer chassis? Like, obviously I think there's more 8.6s around than there used to be as well, but like the number one dominating chassis is BMW E46s, and not newer than that.
Yeah, but it like I said, it becomes a budget for performance type of scenario, right? Like the car is already proven. And the car is massively competitive and has a huge aftermarket and is cheap and relatable and viable. So it's hard for people not to do that. Obviously, that kills it. It kills some aspects of the sport, but you can't fault people for wanting to do that
and being competitive on a budget.
Exactly. Like the only reason why I was any sort of competitive was because I went to that car. If I tried to chase the S13 thing, I never would have done shit. I don't think. Just the E46 was like my saving grace competition wise, and it matched my driving style well. But like the argument could be made each way that it's bad for the sport because there's no new cars that are worth a shit to the average drift dude in some people's eyes, or the argument could be made that like the sport's thriving because it's easier. The barrier to entry to professional drifting is much lower than most motorsports, so it still like lives on at its roots, and we still have people that can afford, that don't come from a ton of money, to like compete. And like I'm proof that like that happened. Dylan's proof that that can happen. Like he's still ripping, and me and him definitely didn't come from money. And there's a lot of other guys in the series still that don't come from money, and they make it work. And so that, in my opinion, is a positive to the series, but it depends on how it's going to grow in the future, and what there is, how it has to happen.
Sure.
Do I see it going like this and maintaining 2 or 3% growth overall, and just like FD just getting by and just maintaining? That could happen. Or could they get bought out by a massive company that wants to run it like NASCAR, and we have charters, and you have 20 teams that can buy a spot, and all the drivers are paid, and all these teams are backed by four OEMs, and then it turns to that side of it. It could go both ways.
100%.
But
no, it's true. Why don't I hit some of the questions in the comments here? Brandon V just brought up O'Sully will be the next NALS in Pro 1. So that'll be kind of cool to see. He's got a real nice engine in that thing, though. That's like, it's fancy.
Very similar build. That's a LME motor, I believe. But yeah, very similar build to kind of like what I was doing, like cubic inch compression and nitrous. I know. I have talked to Jerry Yang a few times, and he's always asked about my motor, and I know he's been like, I think trying to fight the urge. I know that guy like hoards like NASCAR V8s at his shop, and has always been trying to put a big nitrous V8 in something because he like really likes it, but he's been fighting it. But there's a couple other people that I talked to that are doing the cubic inch nitrous route, changing stuff up, and like, I don't know. I think it's becoming more popular for the simplicity.
100%.
Yeah, and you got the
and
powers
the heat.
there.
You got to remember the heat that is also the issue.
Yeah.
And bolting 80 pounds worth of blower on the top of your engine in the worst spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you have a iron block blower LS, you weigh 160 pounds more than an aluminum nitrous motor.
Yeah.
And 160 pounds over the front tires is not necessarily the greatest thing.
It's true.
Definitely.
Franny G Slice, with more rear / mid-engine cars or drift cars popping up recently, do you think they'll catch on? I don't know if there's a ton out there yet, but obviously Chelsea's got the Porsche, and Matt just did the C8, and there's been a couple mid-engine cars out there that we've seen.
Daigo with his Lambos.
And Mad Mike with the his car, but like, do you think that's actually like this is for example, Field's car? Do you think there is a way that you think he can make it work in an actual FD round and be competitive?
Yeah, any car can be competitive with the right R&D. Like, I truly believe that. Like, anyone can. I mean, dude, if a FRS can be competitive, then anything can be competitive. You know what I mean?
A lot of FRS haters on the show recently.
Dude, they're the worst. They're the worst.
That's why, Brandon, I am shocked that you did choose that for your vehicle, and you said that it drove.
The virtual one sucks too. It's
just even in the video games, they're not good.
Yeah, even in Assetto, it freaking sucks. I'm changing out of it. It fucking sucks.
I mean, like, a lot of people like them, and they do look good with certain kits and setups. And I got a friend with one back here that I've driven, and it doesn't drive terrible, but like, from a suspension standpoint, the suspension design is not good, and the car is a box. It's just as wide as it is long. And from a math standpoint, it does not make a good drift car. And the frame rails are so wide that you can't have any clearance for steering, so you have to make it even wider. And like, I don't know, the ratio's all off. But yeah, any car can be competitive. Like, it all comes down to where you place the weight and spring rates and sway bars and tire pressure, and everything's got a formula. I've obviously talked to Chelsea a lot about the Cayman stuff, and I mean, we were talking about Cayman drift cars like 4 years before he built his. Like it was always like a joke, like, oh, we just built a Porsche, dude, or he's like, I'm gonna buy a Cayman, man. It's got trailing arms, and, and it was always a thing. And at one point, we sat down in his living room and like were jotting down like ideas and notes on like what we would do to make it right and like how we would plan out to build one. He just had the balls to actually do it, and from what I understand, the car absolutely rips. So it could work. It's just obviously it's venturing into a new unknown, and whoever wants to try to do it, I think it can definitely work. But you got to be able to brave the like the inevitable problems you're going to run into.
Yeah, the failure and then the money spent behind the failure.
Yep, but it's also glorious if you succeed. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
100%. I mean, Gov 451's like, I'm old enough to remember Tyler Mack's hand-cooked Porsche. I've seen videos of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's even crazier because that was rear engine. So like, imagine nowadays where if you get too deep in the wall, you break the valve cover.
Yeah.
Like that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Well, I saw one of the issues with the C8 is the trans is the back of the car.
Oh yeah.
It's like
same with the Caymans, the same.
Is
thing.
it? Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's like, ooh.
Yeah, putting it in flat is definitely like, because we're used to if we're going in the wall, you add angle and stand on the gas, and if I have to put the car into the wall square to the taillights, I will, because there's nothing back there, and that's saved my car so many times. Like the C pillars of my E46, for a long time before I like cut them up and like fully fendered it, like it was wrinkling all the way up because like I'd put that thing to the back window a few times.
Yeah. Wow.
Obviously everything's square and straight now, but like that's an instinct of us drivers, is to like, when you put it in the wall to save the chassis, you want to go in square and flat.
Yeah.
But with the gearbox right there on the C8 and the Cayman, if you go in square and flat, that's the worst way to go in because it's straight to the gearbox.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's it would definitely need some, I don't know, changes, but like something to figure out there. But it is such an interesting like thought process of like how the weight is in that car, like how potentially fast it could be. It's cool. Dan Savage is like, can you explain why anti-squat equals goat?
I mean, too much is not good though.
Yeah.
Then you lose all the side bite, and then the car just like floats forever. But I don't know, dude. Mechanical grip in general is just goat. I hate having to rely on a tire to be fast. But yeah, dude, I don't know. There's 100%. Something crazy like having a car that if you just raise it in the rear, you just gain more forward, like exponentially. Yeah. And then if you lower it in the rear, you take forward drive out. Having that adjustability is just so sick, and it goes for multiple cars with like anti-squat. But yeah, pretty much the best thing ever.
All right, so I actually want to get to one current event item. I just have to change it so you guys can see what I am seeing at the moment. No.
Current event item.
Current event.
We're getting political. Oh,
never mind.
We got some pretty big news on Kenda acquiring two very big drivers in Ryan Turk, which, by the way, okay, the more that I look at the wrap, I do like it.
All right, whatever, dude. You're just a bandwagon.
The yellow's gonna grow on you,
dude. I'm not a yellow guy.
It's so hot, dude.
But the blue
always look good, and it looks the best this year. Whoever did that one, 10 out of 10. You really knocked that one out of the park.
I was never a yellow guy. Chelsea was never a yellow guy. I'm sure Turk wasn't a yellow guy. But all these cars look good, dude. It's just a matter of time before you come over to the dark side. Accepting the fact that yellow cars do look good, even though, like, it's not the common thing.
That silver one did look really good, though. When he did that silver round, holy
Oh, yeah.
That was
I still think my favorite was, like, the original, like, the red, like, gum out livery.
Gum out.
Yeah.
I just want the gold wheels back. Give me those gold wheels.
Yeah, as long as they're not black, I don't care what color they are.
Exactly. No. Oh man, the more I look at it, the more good it looks. Damn it. But yes, no. They moved to Kenda tires, guys. Like that's kind of a big deal, I feel like.
Kenda's new tires is good.
Is it?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people that have ran their new stuff, and their first iteration, definitely not. Like,
Right.
absolutely not the greatest. And then they did the was like the Vesda Max Plus or something.
Yeah.
Changed the compound again, and that made a lot of like positive, a lot of positive changes to the tire from what
Yeah.
I've heard. I have never ran them, but a lot of people were like, yeah, they went from like, I don't want to say zero to hero, but they made pretty good strides
Now-
from what I heard. But
Yeah, we had Nick Novak on. Was it last week? It all runs together to me. But he said it was the best tire in FD. Now he is biased, and he said he was biased.
mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah,
he's like, they're pretty good. So I'm really curious to see what happens here because they have a 305.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go
that's
down.
going to be a new.
Nittos are 315, right?
Yeah, Nitto's 315.
So they're gonna have to make the cards just a bit lighter, I would assume, or they have the ability to make them lighter now.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious to see. That's also gonna help the tire, just being lighter. So I am really curious to see how these Toyotas, especially like they've had all this R&D on these 315 Nittos for all these years. I am curious to see how they do out of the gate.
Yeah, is it a 305/35 or is it a 305/40?
Yeah,
35.
35.
That's where I feel like it might hurt them if the sidewall's too small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only downside because they had a 295 or they had a 295, but it was like a 35.
Okay.
And it was almost worse than the 275 when they first like came in.
Yeah.
I feel like the sidewall is very important to a lot of these tires, but I still think the GT is the best tire on the grid. Just because it's like similar to a 275/45.
Yeah.
If you like measure the ratios right, like they physically measure way skinnier than a 295, so you can be like 200 pounds lighter than a 315 car.
Wow.
So it's like, I think that still is the best ratio, but I mean their new tire could
Slap.
change
Yeah.
it up. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious. So I just want to get into some little conspiracy theory here. Why do you think they made the switch? Was it cha-ching or was it something else?
I mean, I want to like. Part of me wants to say it's budget. Marketing budgets, like these race teams are very expensive to run.
Yeah.
And the bills have to get paid, and the show has to go on. And that's just business. I don't know if maybe Nitto wanted to cut some budget, and Kenda gave them like a hero offer coming in like real hot this year for some reason. They need to burn some cash. It always changes up. But also like I know Osbo runs Kenda in Europe. So if that has something to do with it, he can be more brand loyal throughout the spectrum. There was a couple years where James was like on Nitto's here, but still representing Falcon Ireland, or whatever, like, or Europe or whatever. And that doesn't always look the best because brand loyalty goes a long ways. And especially if you're competing overseas, it's nice to have some sort of consistency there. So I'm sure that's part of the decision. But I mean, the only people that are going to know are them. So
this is true.
But I wouldn't be surprised either way. Like, most likely it's probably a budget thing if I were to guess. And then I think the tire brand like matching what Osbo runs in other countries like was probably a bonus.
100%. And we have the full list here. We got Frederick Osbo, Ryan Turk, Simon Olsen, another low key big get for them. I would say.
Depending on what his new car ends up being.
Exactly. So that could potentially be another big add-on for them. Definitely make a move there. Ken Gushu was on last year. Castro was on there last year. Nick Novak was on there last year. Cash was on there last year. Derek, I can't remember. I think he was on there last year.
Yeah.
Stuckey was not, so that's also a switch. And
Vitour's gone.
Yeah, that's right. Vitour is not gone, and then Osterman is also new to pro. So, honestly, that's a pretty good lineup. I don't know if it's as good as GT Radio's lineup, but
yeah,
I feel like they're gonna at least like compete with Nitto now, depending on who's running them.
It's gonna be close. I know GT picked up quite a few like heavy hitters this year. So that's gonna be like, it'll be a good, I guess, comp. But the Nitto only has 4 drivers now.
Yeah,
they're gonna have James and Ben and Vaughn for 2 rounds and Sorensen, and that's it, from what I understand. So they basically only have 3 full-time guys, which I think is the FD minimum, and then they'll have Vaughn as a wild card if he ends up driving a couple rounds. So they seem to like really be pulling back.
And was Sorensen like an actual Nitto driver? I always thought he just bought the tires and ran them.
I mean, who's to say?
Right.
He could have been buying them. I don't think he was on the official list last year or the years prior, but they might have, shoot him in and figured out a different deal this year. Obviously, I don't know the details, but they gotta meet 3 spots. I'm pretty sure, because if as a tire company coming into FD, I'm pretty sure it's part of the contract that the tire companies have to support a certain amount of drivers full time. I think 3 is the number. So if Vaughn doesn't decide to drive, they have to have a 3rd driver on the list.
Yeah.
So
but I think this is some pretty big changing news for the series. So I'm really curious to see how this goes, because obviously you got 4-time champion over here, and Turk, who's always been on that doorstep. So excited to see what's going on for those guys. I am still curious to see what Simon Olsen does this year. It's going to be, he's another guy that was like right there, and now is doing his own program. So curious to see how that goes this year as well. But I'm going to go switch back to the regular screen here. But yeah, guys, I think we are at the 2-hour mark. So I want to quick hit a chat question, and then I want to hit my favorite question. Where is it? If you had to, this is from Carter to Z, if you had to go a different action sport career besides drifting, what would it be? And why is it flipping cars?
Let's see. I would probably, dude. So a while ago, I probably would have said, like something off-road or like trophy truck related, because that stuff is super, super rad. But lately, like, sprint cars have been catching my eye, and that stuff is nuts to me. Something about like driving around in like a methanol powered death trap that has almost a 1-to-1 power to weight ratio is like just my type of sketchy. And there's plenty of money to be won there. Obviously they spend a lot more, but you show up to a World of Outlaws race, dude, and it's like 60 semis, and they got a race that's $1 million to win every year, and like they go crazy, and everyone fights each other. I don't know. That sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Well, I'm assuming since that would be something that you're interested in, that's something that you've witnessed in person. Like, spectating that shit is awesome.
Yeah. Sprint cars in general are just sick. Even like asphalt stuff, like up at Evergreen, occasionally they do like super modified figure 8 races, which is extremely
sketchy.
Yeah, they do figure 8 races and super modifieds on asphalt. So that's nuts. They do asphalt. I believe it's like, I think they have 360 sprint is like the lower level mode. I think it's 360s and 410s, if I remember correctly. Like 410s World of Outlaws, 360s. But anyways, they do that on asphalt on the 3/8 oval at Evergreen, and they're doing like wheelies down the front straight. And
as they're hooking up out of it.
Yeah, it's so cool. And like they get all wound up, and like people like flip, and like don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of racing to me is really cool. So that's
100%.
probably what I'd end up doing. If it wasn't like trophy trucks, some sort of off-road go fast stuff, then it would be like dirt circle track, but it'd be like sprint cars or modifieds, like some sort of gnarly.
Yeah, where you're just constantly just pinned, throwing it in, modulating a little bit of throttle and brake,
Yeah.
and just keeping it just.
Yeah, literally trying to just burn the guy on the run up so that he can't get past you on the outside line or whatever. Just trying to like shut the door over and over again. Like, no wonder those guys fight all the time, dude.
Yeah, it's just a constant block battle over
Yeah.
and over and over again. It's
Yeah.
the fastest like 50 laps of everybody's life.
Yeah, dude, did you see they did World of Outlaws at Bristol on dirt, and they broke the track record by like a crazy amount.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Like, dude, 140 miles an hour down the straights or something crazy. Like,
Yeah, because they're
Like-
able to just keep it wide open. the
Yeah.
entire time.
yeah, because the cars make 950 horsepower. They weigh 1,200 pounds.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, they broke the track record immediately as soon as they did that.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it was cool.
That's cool. All right. On to our last question of the day. And I ask all FD people this is, do you have an Andy Luck story that you can legally tell us?
That I can legally tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually. So.
And to be fair, Dylan's story was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was his first day working an FD round, and he got the shit chewed out of him.
Oh yeah. When he was with Forsberg, I know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my Andy Luck story is my first year of Pro 2 when we had an evergreen round, so it was local, and I was like kind of getting started and towed my car up to the round with my basically towed my car up to the round with the RV. Made like a makeshift pit with my buddy. I didn't have a tow rig at the time.
Yeah.
Logan towed it up with his Ford, and then we all just camped. And then I think I pitted out of a friend's pit. I don't know if it might have been Cameron's pit at the time, but
Yeah.
anyways, we were trying to get my grandparents into the track back and forth, and we were taking Logan's truck, and he had like a Ford like big 7.3 lifted like 37s, whatever.
Yeah.
And we were driving that thing through the car show side, so we drove all the way around to the campground to pick up my grandparents, and my grandma's in the front seat, and this thing's all lifted tall. And the pro show was starting. And we're trying to get grandma into the pit. So we drove through the car show area, and we're taking a left, and they were trying to shut the gates, and there was a ton of people, and we're trying to get through, and Andy comes through ripping, screaming, "Get this truck out of here. Like, what are you doing in the pit?" Like, because he couldn't see the tag for like a service vehicle and whatever.
Yeah.
Screaming, banging on the door, on the passenger door. My grandma's in there like freaking out, and he's just yelling, like just going berserk, right? Like, get out of the way. And then my grandma rolls down the window, and I'm in there, and I'm like showing my hard card. I'm like, dude, like, chill out. We're trying to get my grandparents to the pit. And as soon as he rolled down the window yelling and he saw my grandma, he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like backed out, because he was just, obviously, like, you don't want cars driving through a pit of like thousands of people. It's a huge liability. But yeah, like, he was going off, and then ever since then, Andy has, like, every time my grandparents have been in an event, Andy has made sure that they have some sort of golf cart transportation and need to get anywhere they need to go, and has always checked in on them and made sure that they had a spot in the stands with their name on it, made sure they had the best seat in the house, made sure if they needed a ride anywhere, he'd facilitate it. Like, absolutely has taken care of, like,
what a guy to have on your
family
side
track
now.
and
Holy cow.
Yeah. But yeah, he was definitely in Andy Luck fashion when he was pissed off, and like we were driving this big ass truck through a crowd of 30,000 people, and he was like, all I could see in his eyes was a lawsuit of us running someone over in the truck.
Yeah.
And as soon as Grandma rolled down the window, and Gramps was in there, and he was, Gramps was like, "You're not gonna talk to my wife like that," you know what I mean? And it all obviously worked out, but that's my Andy Luck story, and it was a little hectic for a minute, but ever since then, Andy's been a super big supporter and a huge fan of me and the family. So
that's crazy. I mean, that's cool. Like, I mean, it shows the sides of Andy Luck. Honestly, you got both sides.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. But again,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on here. Like it's been fun, man. It's been good talking about good old days and the new stuff that you're doing as well. So you want to give the people just another breakdown on what you can offer and where they can go see your offerings at?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just socials are just Travis Reed on Instagram. If you're in the market to build a car and need help piecing together the right parts, if you need shocks and you need them spec'd, if you need help with electronics, specifically link stuff, radium fuel stuff, I can facilitate that and make sure you get the right parts. Just shoot me a DM or email me off the website. Other than that, just keep an eye out on socials for this year, because we'll hopefully be firing up some good content, some good driving, and just having fun with the boys. So
hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
All right. Boundless Racing, Mr. Boundless Racing, wheeling and dealing down there. Is that what I heard?
Sure are. Yeah, we're picking up. It's good. It's good. So that's good. Yeah, no competitions lately. But if anyone needs any sim stuff or want any turnkeys done, hit me up and I'll happily get you taken care of. So
there you go, Herbie.
There you go.
Just be happy you're still here, okay? Let's just we'll stay.
Every day is a blessing. God gives his
God bless
soldiers his toughest battles. That's me. I'm the toughest battle and the strongest soldier at the
I will ask, Herbie, what is your relationship right now with your pedals like, or your steering wheel? Are they in good spirits, or is it about to go through a window?
They're all right. Depends. Depends. If I get T-boned or not during a fucking race, then sometimes I kind of want to. It's not even me I want to take it out at. It's just if you end the stream right here, I would really.